when you walk into a scenario like that, I find that some people they'll purchase something new and then they'll look at their numbers and then they'll say, well, there's no way that it's going to take this long to sell the house, even at that price. If we don't, we can carry it for a certain amount of time. But the thing is that I don't care who you are. If you can carry something, you don't want to carry it, because why would you want to do that? You want to sell. You don't want to keep it and carry something because you can. Like, no one wants to do that, because like you said, there's no real purpose to that. You want to get rid of it. So then it becomes, time versus money and your mental health. Like what is your capacity? And the longer that it goes on, the less you're going to sell for, then you're even more distraught because the price goes down and you're carrying it and losing. So where does that end?
You're listening to the Ottawa Real Estate Podcast with your hosts, Paul Stevenson, David Warren, and Greg Campbell. Let's see what's going on in the world of real estate today.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Ottawa Real Estate Podcast, the go-to source for all things real estate in the vibrant capital city of Canada. I'm your host, Paul Stevenson, a seasoned mortgage agent, level 2, joined by the dynamic duo of real estate expertise, Greg Campbell, an accomplished realtor, and David Warren, also a mortgage agent, level 2. Together, we bring you an insider's perspective on the ever-evolving Ottawa real estate landscape. Whether you're a seasoned investor, a first-time homebuyer, just curious about the market trends, join us as we delve into insightful conversations, expert interviews, and the latest updates shaping the Ottawa real estate market. Get ready to navigate the exciting world of real estate with us on the Ottawa Real Estate Podcast. Gentlemen, how are we doing?
We're doing fantastic.
Lovely.
That was the. I think that's the best one. It's
the best
GPT's
one. It was the best one. I got to tell you guys something that has been driving me crazy, because it's a dead giveaway of articles using AI, which is fine. We're all using it in some way now. But the word delve has to be the word of the year for 2023, because I've never read so many articles in my life where the word delve has been written in it. It just keeps showing up.
Yes.
So I've made it a point that if I'm using AI, I make sure that word is kind of like, maybe it'll be used once, but I try not to use it at all, because I did one article and it was in there like way too many times. So I don't know what it's like. It's to make you seem intelligent, I guess. Delving into something.
I found that one liked seasoning. It liked to season things on that.
Vibrant,
right?
Ottawa's vibrance. All of a sudden,
Ottawa's vibrance, yeah. but that was a great description. We should use that description every week and use the word delve. I like to delve.
Okay, we'll delve in.
Let's delve right into this.
Yeah. How's the weekend? What'd you guys get up to? We'll keep it shorter this week, so we don't have the weekend podcast.
What did I do this weekend? You know what? I was home. I cleaned up around the house, cooked food, cleaned, did an open house yesterday, and had no visitors.
So Greg stayed alive. Greg stayed alive for the weekend.
As the other open houses that I spoke to agents at, 0. So, yeah.
I breathed air. I ate food.
That's what I did.
Slept.
Hung out with my family.
That's great.
It's great. It was wonderful. Yes.
Paul, I can summarize for you and I. We were together Saturday night for a great charity event that Paul puts on for the Boys and Girls Club in Uganda, and great time, great information. Always good to support them.
And some great performances.
Yeah.
Great performances. Yeah, it was excellent. If anyone wants more information on that, you can check out the Boys and Girls Club at AZBGC. Agnes Zabali Boys and Girls Club, azbgc.ca. And it's a small not-for-profit project in Uganda. We send 155 boys and girls to school, primary and secondary school. And also we do, I guess, medical missions, where we send over usually about 15 doctors every year. And they serve about 3,000 people a day in the community, the doctors. So pretty wild, pretty cool project. And check it out if you're interested. We do an annual fundraiser. It was really good. It was a very, very successful event. And thank you to everyone who came out. And we'll do it again next year. We kind of have spot fundraising events throughout the year. So I'll make sure to let everyone know if you're interested. Certainly reach out. I can give you more info. But let's delve into the show, shall we, gentlemen? Should we delve in?
While Paul and Dave were being amazing, I was being selfish at home.
with your family. I disagree. But tell us about these open houses, Greg. You said a lot of people said no shows this weekend.
Yeah. The number of open houses was way down too. Like, I mean, even in Orleans alone, I could count about 15 a few weeks ago. There was only 4 single family detached homes that had open houses yesterday, and they were all quiet.
Do you think that's partially as well because of like every listing you look at now has like the 3D walkthrough and, walkthrough videos, like you can get a pretty good feel on the property before going to look at it, right?
Well, I mean, you can, but I also think that people, as much as I suggest they be shopping now, they're kind of burnt out just from the media hype and everything. So I think people are just kind of taking their time and they'll just go see it when they want. I think the open houses is slowly dwindling right now. Months of inventory is up. We'll talk about that in a minute. But, I just feel that people are a little bit exhausted.
On the Orleans front, I did hear from a builder's sales rep that she did not have a single sale in the entire month of October. And it was the first time ever that's happened.
Yeah. Not surprised. I'm not surprised, even with the offers that they're promoting now.
Mm-hmm.
But see, that's the thing. It's like, so you think about that. No sales at a new builder, and people are crying about lack of inventory. So is it lack of inventory or is it price?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's obviously a mix of both, but that's an important thing to hear about.
Yeah, I think it still all boils back to the psychology of where rates are at and where payments are at, and people being unsure of where rates are heading, and kind of leaving it at that. And I think kind of a wait and see a little bit. Some people that are, again, on the sidelines, we've talked before of consumer debt on the way up. But I think, for anyone that is looking to get in the market, they're kind of being very cautious and they're not wanting to lock in at where rates are at, and they're hoping to do so when they come down. That's my feeling.
I don't know about you, Dave, but I haven't seen a single, like we were doing like purchase plus programs, those sorts of things, like buying an old home, kind of updating it. I haven't done a single one of those in probably 10 months, I would say 8 to 10 months, which typically we're doing multiples a year, right? People are like, oh, we bought this home, we want to update this, we want to update that. I think the homes that are selling, the reason why I'm saying this, I think are the kind of turnkey. No one wants a project right now. Nobody wants to be worrying about, finding materials, any additional costs that have to be added on. I find the people that are buying are looking to just move in and just set their payment, forget it, and focus on other areas of their life. The last 5 years, I think we were in a position where people were looking for opportunities or looking for investment chances and things like that, and are willing to take on that risk because money was cheap. It's like, oh, it's only 1.5%. Let's go. Everyone was kind of revving the engines, but now it seems like everyone is slowed, not even coasting, just slowed. And I think buyers are willing to wait for that perfect turnkey home, right? Like they don't want to be competing. They don't want to be doing renovations. They want to basically find something at the right price, move in, and that's it. Like it seems like that a lot of areas of our industry have slowed because people don't want to take on those projects. Are you guys seeing that as well?
Yeah. No, for sure. I have. Absolutely. Again, but it all goes back to Greg's been saying it for the past 160 episodes of, no matter what in any market, that the properties that are really nice or done and marketed well or like staged really well and good up, they're going to go. The ones, and go for that premium.
They're holding the values up.
I am seeing that change slightly though. And it all comes down, it's got to be price, because there's a couple that I know of that are pristine and priced what I would think as completely accurate for the market now, and they're just sitting.
Yeah.
Which is like, there's actually 2 properties that if I was looking, I would buy both of them, because there's nothing, you don't have anything to do. They're in a great neighborhood. It makes sense to buy and hold on to these, especially if you're a first-time buyer. But I have a quick story about a property that I went
delve into it.
I'm delving. I went and saw it yesterday, and because it came down so much that I was like, wow, that's a great opportunity. I want to see this. Like, even, for myself, I'm like, this is like, this makes sense. So brand new build, Minto, They purchased in July for $830,000, and it was listed. It's been on the market for over 100 days. It was originally listed at 1.05 million. It dropped down to $1 million. It dropped down to 950. It dropped down to 900. Now it's listed at 870. So, and it's been vacant since closing. So it's brand new. It's in Orleans, and now it's priced to basically break even. So it's a huge deal for the market as a whole. And clearly it's a situation of what we were talking about, where whenever these guys bought this property, they assumed that the market would allow them to leverage that and profit when it listed. And the timing just didn't work out, obviously. So the problem is that listed at that price for what it is, 4-bedroom den, finished basement, 4-bathroom at 860 on a corner lot. It's big. I think it's about, like, total with the basement, it's over 3,000 square feet, like 3,100. So now to think of that pricing and to think about everything else on the market and how other homeowners want to get a certain value at their home, this one really skews it. Because if this sells, let's say it ends up selling for $850 for what its value is, no matter what anyone thinks, that'll just give more buyers ammunition to be like, well,
If that's $850.
If that's $850, then yours is maybe $9 when it should be $1 million. And like I believe that this house should sell for higher, but clearly they're in a situation where they need to go. And so the more we see of that, the harder it's going to be for homeowners that are selling now for them not to lose.
Yeah.
Or they're just going to have to pull it off the market and weather the storm of potentially having 2 mortgages. So it's challenging. There's another one I know. So if I may delve deeper here, there's so much.
Take a deep delve.
I just want to delve. There's another property that was listed at $1 million last year. Drop, couldn't sell. Now what's happening is that the price is $850 and still no offers. And I know that the homeowner is carrying 2 properties, and what they're paying is just short of $10,000 a month. So they're not in a situation does anyone want to maintain that? No. So it's like, what do? Do you go back and rent? And even if they go back and rent it out, they're still losing probably, $2,500 a month because they won't get what they need to cover all the costs. So this is the kind of thing that can be challenging and that people need to be very aware of. And the more that happens, the worse it will be for other properties on the market to sell.
And then the challenge for those investors as well, those people trying to sell, like you said, almost, $10,000 a month. How long can they carry that payment for before they just give up that debt or give up that loan or property or default on that mortgage? But if they get a tenant in, then it becomes hard to also sell a property with a tenant. They're stuck in a mortgage, they're stuck in a lease. Whoever's buying, if it's not month to month, that person, they're stuck in there until that lease is up. And who knows what their furniture is going to be like or how they treat the property, so it becomes really a tough decision for a lot of people of whether to leave it vacant or whether to get somebody in to kind of, cut some of the losses a little bit. But then it becomes like, is the loss going to be even greater because down the line, maybe the house gets, beat up a little bit, especially if it's a new build.
Well, that's the thing. And one of these properties was tenanted and the tenants are gone, and then they spruced it up a bit, and now they're still having a hard time selling it. So it's not great. And I mean, I feel that both the homes that I just spoke about are incredible opportunities. Like, they're priced very well for any market, 4-bedroom, 4-bathroom homes. Like, at that price right now, even at that price a few years ago, or 5 years ago.
Well, and if they're say carrying that $10,000 a month, that's just just for those two mortgages, let alone all the other living expenses. So it's how are they carrying that? Like most people are not putting 100% of their income on a mortgage, right? So
and
are they carrying additional debt? Are they, are they borrowing against investments? Like what are they doing to carry that, and how long can they?
Well, and that's the thing.
Water?
It's like, and when you can carry that debt, the mental thing that happens is, bye guys. the mental, what happens is that when you walk into a scenario like that, I find that some people they'll purchase something new and then they'll look at their numbers and then they'll say, well, there's no way that it's going to take this long to sell the house, even at that price. If we don't, we can carry it for a certain amount of time. But the thing is that I don't care who you are. If you can carry something, you don't want to carry it, because why would you want to do that? You want to sell. You don't want to keep it and carry something because you can. Like no one wants to do that, because like you said, there's no real purpose to that. You want to get rid of it. So then it becomes, time versus money and your mental health. Like what is your capacity? And the longer that it goes on, the less you're going to sell for, then you're even more distraught because the price goes down and you're carrying it and losing. So where does that end? And we're going to see a lot more of that. Like those are just two scenarios that I'm telling you. How many other realtors have people that they see going through the same problems in the city? Probably a lot right now.
And so for that, because, like you said, open houses, and you spoke to a lot of people, there's fewer out there, but even that they were the ones of that they didn't get anyone through. So people aren't out shopping right now. What would you be guiding your clients if they had a listing, whether to hold firm on the price because no one's out anyways right now, or to do a price reduction because you never know who's looking or getting their, listings to the inbox? Like, how would you guide somebody in that regard? And I know it depends on the individual circumstance, but just kind of thinking, if there's no one out in the market shopping that you're finding, is there value in even dropping the price or waiting until there's bodies actually out there?
There is people shopping in the townhome semi-detached market. Like anything under 800,000, I find people are still pretty active in. Not as much, but I did notice there's an uptick in sales over the last couple of weeks for that price point. But I think that the detached homes are really taking a hit just because of the price and the rates. People aren't willing to take the risk of that. And the first time buyers aren't buying those types of homes, right? They're first timers. So they're getting into the townhome market.
And I think you have a great graphic too of that inventory.
I do. Yeah. Let's delve into the graphic of, let's keep delving into all this.
I wonder when listeners will realize that we are actually AI. That's why we're using delve so much.
So this is pretty cool. Months of inventory. If you look at how much inventory we have going back to 2018, like it's staggering the amount. We had over 7 months of inventory back in 2018 in January, falling, kind of in a similar pattern year over year, but much less, over the pandemic times. But what we are seeing this year, so let's look at it this way. You can see the graph, the purple line is 2018. The teal line is 2023. So if you look at that, 2023, right now we're at 4.8%, 4.8 months on market, of months of inventory. Excuse me. Where am I going with this? Months of inventory. So that is the highest since 2018 that we've had for months of inventory. And this is, keep in mind, this data is all Greater Ottawa. So this goes Hawkesbury to like Deep River, Cornwall, etc. But as a general overlook of Greater Ottawa, that's high. Now, I expect that to go up to about 5.5 in November. That's my prediction. And then maybe up to 6 in December, which will match 2018. So I wanted to show this today because of what I keep saying is there's two things. best 4 months of the year to buy. Best 3 months would be November, December, January. More opportunities in terms of everything. In terms of sellers, reason to sell or urgency to sell. They just, people want to sell when they're selling in the winter, they want to go. Better negotiation for the buyer. And that's where we're at. And that's what happens with a lot of people come on the market in the fall, because fall is usually a little bit hotter. And if they can't get it done, it spills over into the winter. And then, they're ready to go. And the ones that come on in the winter, they're, they know what they're getting into. They don't want to wait till spring. They don't need to wait till spring. They have to move. So winter in Ontario, winter in Ottawa is a great time to buy, especially for a first timer. So if you're approved and what you can do, I'd say it's a good time. And again, I will state that this is based on planning on staying 5 years or more in that property.
Mm-hmm. And I think to that note, there was a good CTV article that came out Friday talking about and illustrating, number one, the average price point of properties in Ottawa, 121,600, but also including, which I thought we'll put the link in the YouTube description, but of 9 neighborhoods, kind of what type of property you can get. But to that point, inventory is up, sales transactions were down 2.7% from October 2022. However, prices are up over last year of 2.2%, which is pretty interesting. Kind of continuing to see that slow uptick, which, for October, again, to your point, Greg, it'll be interesting to see how that is affected through November and December. But with some of these, sellers being desperate and doing some of those, needing to price drop like you mentioned.
Should we have Greg go through a couple of these neighborhoods in his rapid open house 30-second? Hey, this 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom home.
Yeah, remember that? Start that again.
But it is, if we go through that article, which anyone watching on YouTube, Steven's controlling it, but maybe we can scroll down to the different neighborhoods. You can see it goes through Alta Vista, Barhaven, Blackburn Hamlet, Centertown, Canada, Kenson Park, Mooney's Bay, Revelstoke, and Orleans, Parkway Park. Actually, they got everything. They got all of them covered here. But it's very interesting to see the contrast between the different properties. And, if you go into the article, you'll be able to see it actually breaks down, what's included, how many bedrooms, washrooms, etc. So we've talked about this, but I mean, Ottawa's always been one of those kind of wacky markets. Hey, you can go one place and home's $1 million. You go to the exact same home in a different part of town and it's 8. It's like it doesn't.
Yeah, these are pretty good picks for each neighborhood as averages, and because they kept it around the same age of the home as well, which I think is important for this article. They're all a little bit older, and they kind of chose ones that make sense to match. So it's a good average. I mean, you're looking at around just 710,000 for single family detached, and that's the thing. Like that's. For some people, that's still affordable. It's when you get a little bit higher, you're really starting to have to look at your numbers. And I was reading something that the amount of, or what, people are having to spend of their income on housing is just ridiculous. I saw something like in the US, they're, upwards of like 62%, I think it was, of their income just to be able to afford a home.
Yeah, I think rates in the States right now are 7% and 8% for their typical A mortgage. They're always usually a couple percent higher than us. But yeah, makes some scary stats out there. But one thing I wanted to kind of leads into our next article, but also something that you just said of when buyers are looking to buy, and you've said it before, of look to keep in mind or looking to stay in your property for 5 years. I think there's a lot of development still going on around the city. So one thing to kind of keep in mind is also researching what sort of developments are happening in the area. And you might be in a suburb and you might not think there's going to be, anything crazy as far as development, but there's a lot of different areas that have either government buildings being transformed or older areas being redeveloped. And I think it's important for people to also do some digging in that regard. there's one, if you're more Mechanicsville, Centertown, there's Tunney's Pasture. They're going through a huge redevelopment and a big proposal there. It's like 700 and 600 units, the whole thing. Like Gladstone near Preston is like 1,000, couple schools and 1,000 in behind Preston Hardware, affordable housing and things like that. You've got, this article that came up that I think is actually great for the city because it's shown to be valuable, but phase 2 of Lansdowne was approved for 419 million. The proposal was for 3 new towers, residential towers, but it was cut to 2 towers. And they also do have 25% of it as affordable housing, which I think is great for being, right in the core like that, really walkable area, obviously. So being able to have a high portion of that 700, and I think it's like 700 or 1,000 units.
Who got the build on that?
The builder themselves are not outlined. It's the Ottawa Sport and Entertainment Group,
right?
So
they're still going to.
John Ruddy's part of that group. Ruddy's part of that group who owns Trinity Development. And he did all the development of phase 1. So I assume that Trinity will be picking up the development of phase 2 as well. But there was, there's obviously that Minto Tower as well. That was the residential. So I think it'll be a combination of the two. But it's going to see a new 5,500 seat event center. North side stands being replaced, and then starting in 2024, and then in 2025 or 27, it's then starting the residential. 2024 to 2027, we'll see the north side stands be completed, as well as the new event center, and then the residential development 2030 is when it's starting.
Crazy! It's so far away.
It's so far away, but this is starting even next year because it has to be in such different phases. So it's certainly, that's something that people don't think about as well, as, there might be, it's kind of forward. You got a lot of these for the city becomes a challenge, for developers, it becomes a challenge. You might be in a market where we're at right now, but you also need to plan. And some of this stuff takes so long to be able to start, and shovels in ground. And there's so much money and so much planning that needs to go into it. We're talking, again, not starting for another 7 years on those residential towers, but if they don't have that baseline infrastructure, that's going to take.
I'm excited for that. Yeah. I'm excited to see especially the pricing on those.
Yeah, that will be interesting. Because what the tower that's there now? What's the going rate on those, Greg?
Depends. There's a variety. I'll be honest, I don't have like an average in there, but they go anywhere from, I've seen them be $1 million for some of them, down to like, 400s, depending on the size. But that whole thing, and then the strip on Homewood with those towns are great. Right now, there's a lower level unit on Homewood that's been sitting forever. The problem is the lower ones are a little bit dark because you're kind of like half in a basement. It's been sitting at 700 for months now. And they're not getting an offer, but the upper ones sell for more. But a lot of people. Yes.
I was going to say, did you mention earlier the average days on market right now in the city? Or do you have that from the October stats?
Average days on market, I don't have it. I think it's still around like the 30 number. Yeah, I don't have that in front of me face.
It's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, I'm just looking again, but you're looking at around 30 days minimum, depending on what it is. Like I know in some parts of town, for some properties, I mean, the average is like 65 days. If you're selling a single in Orleans, you're 2 months at least on average. So don't be average. That simple. A lot of questions from sellers. I bring something else up, and it's trying to find new ways to prove value for sellers. Predictive analytics seems to be coming into question quite a bit, and sellers are wanting, a value add of what else you can do different as an agent for your seller to bring people into the house, because there's traditional ways of doing stuff, but you can only do so much given the market. So any extra tool like that, I believe there's a privacy issue, but I have a call today. I'll know more next week. I have a call today with an agency that does that. I know in the US, it's very popular for people to target specific buyers for their properties. And there's some agents I know down there that only do that specifically, and they really do well with it. Like they get the home in front of a buyer's face that AI predicts is ready to buy based on profession, income, lifestyle, etc. Very intrusive. And I know Canada has some pretty serious laws, and so that's why it hasn't been available as of yet. But there's a company I'm talking to today to see what that looks like, because if it does, it's definitely something I'd like to be able to offer sellers. Predictive analytics.
I actually had two people mention, Greg, we've been putting out these short kind of consumable clips from the show. People seem to be liking those. I guess it's easier to digest than our 40-minute conversations. But they were the one that I saw that got a lot of comments, to me at least, was the one you're talking about recently about the commissions. You're talking about fees and so on. And I had a friend who just listed their place, and he said he was using a company in Toronto that was doing something similar to that. Like they kind of assessed their property remotely. They, they sent them in photos, and then they kind of put everything together and listed the property. There's still a fee for it, but it was all inclusive of legal fees and everything else.
Yeah.
So I know there have been companies like that in the past, and there's always a market for that.
There's going to be more. They're coming.
Yeah, as they get more efficient, and as you said, like that market data is available, and they have all those analytics of who's buying where and when and how. That'll accelerate all of those other avenues, all those other businesses that are in that space.
The thing that I think is great about a flat fee for realtors is that the seller knows exactly what they're paying, no matter what the property sells for, and they can use that as like a benchmark off the jump. They know what they're getting, they know what they're paying. So I think it's valuable, and I believe that more of us as agents need to incorporate that into our structure. Just kind of have bottom line for the services offered, and that's what you stay with.
Sorry to cut you off, Greg. Yeah,
Sure.
I think now I'm sure there are people who are looking at, they have $1 million home, or, somewhere in the high 8s, 9s, and they're thinking it's going to cost us 50 to 100,000 in fees just to sell this house. Right?
Yeah.
Not even their own equity they're getting back. They're paying, let's say 5%. So, paying 50,000 on $1 million home in fees to the real estate agents. Not to say that that isn't necessary, but it is definitely a deterrent, I'm sure, for a lot of people when they're thinking, okay, well, we only have 150 in equity. We're giving 33% of that away from the start before we even put our down payment on a new home or whatever. So even trying to downsize or look at alternatives, they might not have the equity yet if they just moved in recently to do that, right? If they moved in the last, say, 5 years, or not, like you said,
this is
got a 5 or 10 year plan, right?
And this is what people don't seem to understand. It's like, it's the misconception of, well, you have $1 million home, then you must have $1 million in the bank or something like that. You know what I mean? And I disagree with that, obviously. And I think most of us in the real world understand that. What I will say is that the changes are coming. There's new, I'm sitting down this week to go over all the new forms for our board for Ontario, how realtors operate, and the changes, especially for listing properties. I'll go over some of them on the show next week. But most interestingly is that the big case that was won in the US a few weeks ago or 2 weeks ago, where the payout I think was 1.5 billion.
It grew to over 5 billion after it was all said and done.
So 5 billion, and then there was 3 new lawsuits filed since then in other states. New York State being one. New York State, I think it was Illinois, and there's something else. So that goes to show you that now that someone won, it's like everybody was just waiting and they all filed. So it's going to really put the pinch on realtors that are going to have to show their value. And if they don't want to show their value, or if they're selling a couple homes a year, they're just going to be out. I think it's going to go back to how it used to be, where you can't be a part-time realtor. You need to be either be in or out. I think that's how it should be, to be honest, not just getting your license to sell a couple homes or do your own flips. Like, it's a professional service, and you need to be working with professional people who can actually help you the way that you should be helped. And it's situations like this where, these, talking about inflated fees in these lawsuits, I don't know really the agents who were involved. I don't know how they operated or whatnot. But it's easy to assume, you would assume that they're people who are inexperienced. And yes, of course, they're in it for the quick buck. and they were part of, that inflation of fees or steering people to listings. And that's another thing that's coming out. Let me delve into this quickly. One of the biggest problems is that you can see on MLS in the realtor remarks who's paying what commission. So if you're an agent and you're out with a buyer and there's a home that's offering like $2,000 flat fee commission, or you got someone that's offering 2.5%, which will put like $10,000 in your pocket, me personally and people I work with, I'm not going to steer them away, because my goal is to put the buyer into the house that's right for them. That's something that you take on and you accept it. And that's just how it is. That's how I operate. But the big problem has been that there are agents that steer, and that's part of these lawsuits. Like, they take the buyer somewhere else where they know they're going to get more money. So the other properties offering a lesser commission are falling behind. So, and I don't think that's fair in terms of the grand scheme of things, just because everybody's situation, every financial situation is different. And as agents, as professional, I think we have a duty to put our clients, our buyers, in the right home. And that's just the bottom line. So
there was
and sorry, to close on that, I believe that one of the changes is that you're no longer going to be able to see what the agent is paying. So you're going to have to.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I think it's great, man. You go in, it makes the realtor blind on what they're going to get paid, but it allows you to focus on the purpose of being in this business in the first place, to help buyers find a home and help sellers sell a home. Like, what happens behind the scene, it doesn't matter.
There was an article that I was reading over the weekend, like pertaining to that lawsuit, was kind of questioning whether the day of a buyer agent is going to go away. And the reason why it was kind of formulated around that idea was that with this lawsuit, it's, to your point, like the buyer agent steering them to different, commissioner like that, and then getting away to, is it going to go the way of the seller pays the listing realtor and the buyer pays the buyer? And there's not, and it's not the seller paying both sides, and that this lawsuit, because of how big it is, and like I said, it grew to, I think, 5.3 billion from, like, once they tacked on, in the States, they have their initial damages and then they're, over and above that. And I think it grew to like 5.3 billion or something like that against the majors. And then, I didn't know some of the other states that have now filed, but that's going to obviously cause a ripple effect through
huge
the industry. I mean, that's not a small sum of money. And I would imagine that it's probably going to cripple some of these brokerages or even umbrellas, I would think, depending on the size of them. But it'll be interesting to see how that goes away, and even how that looks, so that there is more transparency. And I think more transparency in any industry is beneficial for the consumer. And so, I'm kind of curious to see how it shakes out, because obviously anything that happens in the States like that, they're all parent companies that also have offices around the world. And so it's going to affect things elsewhere before other lawsuits start coming down the pipe in other countries.
And it's happening here, and it's going to happen. And that's why I'm telling, like, that I'm personally working on my value proposition now and working on different structures, because I feel that if we don't have that, there's going to be someone else who does have that, and they're going to be able to take advantage of opportunities because of having that. You need to present, in times of change, obviously, if you want to stay relevant, you have to, present different solutions, or else you're just going to get destroyed if you're not paying attention.
We saw that here too with, when Grapevine was really popular and they were giving, 1% or whatever. Like, I mean, don't have a specific example, but we definitely heard rumblings of people avoiding showing clients those properties because of the fact that it was lower commission. And same thing with builders. Like, builder commissions for realtors have shifted from, a flat fee to absolutely no. Builders are constantly changing their compensation models as well, which, you would imagine in those cases that you're talking about, Greg, that those are going to influence people to, they're paying a flat fee of 1,000, or I could go sell this other home and make 25.
Hey, man. And you know what? I've said it before. Like, I wish builders would just choose a fee to cooperate and leave it at that at any time. It's just, because it is frustrating. What happens is agents start resenting working with builders, because in a time when an agent can be out with someone for working for like 3 to 6 months, show 40 homes, and then they go with the builder, and then you get $1,000. So you've taken a huge loss, financially, end of your time. So then that's irritating. And then so suddenly the builder needs you, and now they're offering 3.5% to you cooperating. And then you're kind of like, oh, okay. So if I have a buyer, I go and I get 3.5%. That's cool. But then it's like, well, why do I want to help you now when you didn't help me? Some agents would be like that, So that's another regulation. I believe there should be either like a builder should just have a flat fee, like you bring in a buyer, or you get $2,500, you get $3,000, and no matter what, from X amount of dollars to X amount over, you get a little bit more maybe for that buyer. But yeah, this up and down thing that's been it's been a big issue with builders since the beginning. And of course, you change with the market. They take what they can. They know their numbers, and that's fair. But in terms of cooperation, I think it should change for sure.
Time will tell.
Time will tell.
And then we'll delve into it some more.
Yeah, that's right.
Should we delve into some mood boosts?
Yes, we shall. I have 3 today, and they're all quite good. I'm very happy with them. Number 1, you guys know my friend Tony, right? My friend Tony asked me not to say his name backwards. I said, why not?
Yes.
Why not? Tony backwards. Yeah. Number 2, I always keep my guitar in the car now. It's good for traffic jams.
Yes. Yes.
And last but not least, my wife thinks it's weird that I stare at the window during heavy rainstorms. It would be a lot less weird if she just let me in.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
It's cold outside.
Yes, it's also Christmas spirit, Greg, based on your mirror behind you.
Oh, be merry.
We're doing the whole Christmas tree setup this weekend, so it'll be good. Family's coming over.
Yeah,
good time.
We did it this weekend. Well, they did it. My wife and the kids.
Greg got a glass of wine on the couch.
I did. Yeah, I had some nog. I did have some nog. I was very, very merry. But it's the Christmas music just kills me. And like the kids are all over it, and I'm just like, guys, I'm like, it's November 10th. I'm like, please. Yeah. I can't listen to this on repeat for this long.
Baby, it's cold out. It's not even.
So many songs. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We'll be back next week. And as we mentioned, we are putting out kind of shorts, reels. So keep your eye out on all the different socials. Be sure to follow along. And we do read the comments. So leave your comments, good or bad. We love them. They're hilarious and very engaging. And if you ever want to come on the show, you're welcome to. And next week, we have a guest, Mr. Matt Luloff.
We have a guest next week. And we have a big announcement. I have one.
Big announcement and guest.
Big guest. Great
big
guest.
Heavy on the Orleans. Heavy on the Orleans.
Heavy on the Orleans.
Yeah. Matt Luloff. We'll be back. Thanks, everyone. Tuesday mornings, 10 a.m. We'll be back.
Peace.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe, because we'd really like that.